The Rock's finisher, the People's Elbow, is basically the Spirit Bomb. If the opponent is going to chill there, The Rock better have knocked the wind out of them to just lay there and watch this mountain slowly take off his elbow pad, toss it to the crowd, run to the ropes, jump over their face, bounce off again, do this ridiculous thing with the leg, and hit an elbow powered by the people. Whether he does a good job, well, that's up to you.
Who's ready for story time?
Finishers in wrestling are always this interesting exclamation point in matches, as they are supposed to be the final dramatic beat to a match. We've gotten used to multiple finishers being needed, and the value of a finisher can be seen as weakened, but that depends on the wrestler and the finisher and the match. However, most finishers just don't make sense. Like Anthony Ogogo does a punch that he can literally hit at any time in the match. He's a boxer but wrestles a normal match. Why? Some people are aware of the simplicity of their finisher. Shawn Michaels had a kick and he could hit it at any moment, but everyone was so aware of that he couldn't just try and do exactly that. He had to space it out, do his stuff, and get them to the point where he could kick them while he loses his smile. Randy's RKO is out of nowhere, but everyone knows that, so he has this style of boring-ass match, but to me, it's just a sadist being a sadist until he gets bored and hits an RKO. Face! To me, a wrestler's finisher, it can dictate the wrestler's style a bit. Your finisher is a high-flying splash, then you better have a style that centers around knocking out their opponent so they can lay there and watch you slowly climb up and hit your move. Why would Stone Cold wrestle a technical match only to hit a stunner? He brawled and then just kicked ass, which is why Kevin Owens doing the stunner never made sense to me, as he didn't change the style with his encyclopedia of move lists that did nothing for a stunner. But it's also why I never had a problem with Goldberg or Lesnar waltzing in there and doing their greatest hits and leaving like they're Metallica. For Goldberg, that makes sense. He knows he can only go max 5 minutes before falling apart like dry bones. Or Lars Ulrich. See, Japanese wrestlers never had a problem with this, as most of their finishers are treated as the last act to kill them, as they are dead enough that any move can be hit on them to end it. Most of the time, a pinning combination, a submission, or a secondary move is enough. In Stardom, Julia has multiple moves to finish off an opponent, but her true finisher is the Glorious Driver, reserved for when she needs it, but she also has the Northern Lights Bomb as a sort of legacy finisher. Azumi here breaks down Himeka, methodically leading to Himeka thinking Azumi will lock in the arm submission, but really hits her Azumi Sushi! Quite often, Japanese wrestlers also have a simple move that is their saving grace. Okada with his perfect dropkick, or Kenny with his V-triggers. And even if the finisher doesn't work, they sometimes have a final finisher, an ultimate finisher. The Burning Hammer comes to mind, but Western wrestling doesn't really work that way. Finishers are just the way matches end. That's just the way it is. And there's a lot of variety of basic ones to really absurd ones and stupid ones. This guy here, he did a worm, and the crowd spelled it out while he did it. And then he did a big old karate chop, and this chop was the most powerful chop in the world. This guy called his finish sliced bread number 2. Western finishes are less about effectiveness and more about a unique identity. The move hits the wrestler. Sabu is an insane, death-defying, crazy son of a bitch, and he would naturally need to finish off opponents by leaping off a chair, parkouring to the top rope, and moonsaulting half a ring away. But Hulk Hogan just dropped a leg drop. Finishers are this unique stamp for a wrestler, so they naturally become protective of it. Like, this guy hates this guy because he stole his finisher and didn't even change the name. But this guy can't use this guy's finisher, which is the same finisher as this guy. So instead, this guy uses this guy's wife's finisher. In the late 90s, finishers started becoming fun because the crowd always popped big for them. So guys like The Rock and Austin realized they could kick out a multiple of them. Always remember what some consider the greatest main event of all time. The finish to that match was chair shots. So over the last 20 years, wrestlers have gotten used to spamming 2 to 3 finishers, and then the roll-up suddenly becomes the preferred finish. Not everyone is like this, but sometimes I see the move rate in AEW and I'm like, he's dead already. He's been dead, guys. You don't need to hit any more moves. This is not as much of a criticism as you might think, though, because I like this style of wrestling too, but I like it in the same way I like action scenes. You know, it's entertainment. Look at Manami Toyota, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. A wonderful theatric performer who killed herself with her moves. Her style was quick with drop kicks, suplexes, dives, and moonsaults. She would spam them over and over again because it was about exhausting the opponent and injuring their neck, because Manami Toyota's finisher was named the Japanese Ocean Cyclone Suplex. It required a lot of setup. She had to cross their arms, lift them up in an electric chair, and very confidently land backwards into a bridge to pin them. It could be seen as silly, but Manami made this move work. She would hit it on Asia Kong, and it was huge. Her whole style was built upon being able to hit her finisher and win, and it made sense. She couldn't chain wrestle the opponent in the beginning, apply some unique rest holds, and hit some super kicks. Why? None of those led to the Japanese Ocean. Why waste the energy? Or take Kenny Omega, hero of dogs, who made an entire career arc over no one being able to kick out of the one-winged angel, and rightfully so, as the lore of that move has made that finisher the best finisher in wrestling, in my opinion. You know, when it's hit, it's done. The story of the match becomes a simple, will Kenny hit this move? Those are the stakes, and it works so well, because when someone finally does kick out of it, and I know about Ibushi, that's a different time in Omega's timeline, it will be huge. But the one-winged angel takes an hour to set up. He has to lift them up in an electric chair. He has to move the right leg kindly over his shoulder. He has to grab their neck, and then he has to drive them down. That's 4 opportunities to escape, my dude. Yikes. It may be a move with a lot of setup, but it has big results. A guaranteed winner. So as a result, the epic style of Kenny Omega is completely dictated by that finisher. He has to weaken the opponent, give himself an opportunity to strike the neck. I mean, the rest of his moves specifically target the neck. The V-trigger is used to stun and eventually knock them out enough to hit the one-winged angel to the damaged neck, built throughout the match. It's a game of strategy and logically gives reason to 30-minute Kenny Omega matches. Finishers dictating the style. Moxley does not need 30 minutes. He kicks ass and hits the Death Rider. What more do you need? Will Ospreay's Stormbreaker requires him to double up the arms, lift them up, and twist around. No one should logically just take that. Unless Will drove his elbow into the back of their head. Okada and the Rainmaker is so well known that everyone counters it. Okada's response, the spinning tombstone as a final FU, and he also spams drop kicks, cause it's the perfect counter to anything. So once you're good and dead, now I can Rainmaker you. Mayu Iwatani's whole style is suplexes, kicks, and creative crafty moves that includes pins, and even high-flying dives like her moonsault. Her specific style leads her to win with either creative pins, or she murders them until she can moonsault them, or she makes them tap with the Dragon Sleeper, or she finishes the job completely with her Super Dragon Suplex. All of her moves either target the neck, or knock them out enough to hit a splash, or desperate moves to score a win. Finishers dictating the style. Is it necessary for everyone? No. There's a delicate balance in general. I like all forms of wrestling, but the best wrestlers for me are the ones who make sense and feel real. Like, I still love Orange Cassidy despite the absurd of his character, because I do believe him, and within the same vein that I believe Eddie Kingston. But I'm also the type to find Saki Kashima an S-tier performer, so who the hell am I?